Vanakkam and welcome to PraniMitran Chat and Share viewers. It's really nice to meet you again on this episode. And today we are going to discuss about a very interesting topic that is on pig industry. And we have a very special guest all the way from Canada to discuss about pig industry. And he's none other than Dr. Cyril Roy. So he's a product of Madras Veterinary College, and he has done his master's in the UK, and then he has traveled to Canada to follow his dream or passion, I should say. Vanakkam, Doctor. How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah, so I've heard a lot about your experiences. I've seen your CV, and it's so impressive. It'll be really very interesting to hear about your experiences and your knowledge about pig industry.
Okay, I started my veterinary studies in Madras Veterinary College. Very proud alumni of Madras Veterinary College. During my veterinary school days, I developed a passion towards the horses. We used to have some horses there, some horse stables inside the university. So I used to be always with the horses there. So my friends always used to call me Piggery Consultant then. So I somehow developed this interest with horses, and then when I finished my vet school, I want to work with horses. So I applied to some of the horse industry people, horse racing in Mumbai, Delhi, and also to other stud farms, horse farms around India. And I was able to get a job in one of the farms near Delhi. So that's how I kind of started my career. I started my career with horses. I worked with horses for around 15 years. Then I developed, in the last 5 years of my career, I developed an interest towards farm animal welfare. I always grew up on a farm. We had some cows and chicken in backyard kind of farming. So I want to learn more about this animal welfare aspects. That's the reason I went to UK, Scotland, University of Edinburgh to do my master's, which led me to a PhD program in Canada. That's how I landed in Canada. My master's and PhD are both are in horse industry. My master's was in pain in horses. My PhD on transport of horses. Then when I finished my PhD, I took stock of things. And the horse industry in Canada is not that big. So I thought I will continue my passion of farm animal welfare. And till last 6-7 years, I am working in the farm animal sector.
Oh, wow. That's really very interesting. So basically, when you see, I do not know about the other countries. I'm very sure that pig industry is one of the biggest industries in a lot of the countries. But when we take India, it's always regarded as, I don't know whether it is due to religious taboo or it's unhygienic and all of those things. So when you compare Western countries with India, how do you feel about the whole idea of having the pig industry or pig farming in India?
Well, the good news is I think all the taboos are breaking down. And if you see the proper statistics, we have two streams, I would say, of pig industry in India. One is the cottage level industries, which is still very famous in the eastern part, Assam and that area. Still, which is feeding by scavenging, but the progress of that is only the last 10 years, 1.4%. So they are not doing very well. But the real opportunity, I would say, is the cities sprouting up all across India, and they have removed all the shackles of taboo. I think the pork usage in the major cities are at improving every year by 10%, which is a big jump. If you see the statistics, it will average around 6 to 7%. So that's a good percentage of growth in that sector. So I think it's a good opportunity now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I've read your article in PraniMitran about the pork revolution in India. That was really very interesting and encouraging to all of the veterinarians and also all of the farmers who are interested in starting the piggery industry. So the next, during our conversation, I was just thinking about how potential is this pig industry farming. But I know cattle is quite demanding, but when it comes to pig industry, people say that it's much easier. So would you agree with that? And how do you think that could be, fast growing, and it could be a potential farming industry compared to cattle?
Yeah, actually, while researching for this, I was looking at some of the videos which are on the YouTube, the pig farmers have put up with. There are a lot of young pig farmers in India now, very tech savvy, and they understand like all the scientific facts, which is the pig, the fecundity, they are very highly producing, very easy to manage. One of the like fascinating thing about the pig industry, even I have a big dream of starting a farm in Canada. I can tell people that I can manage 1,000 sow farm just by one family. Probably one person can manage 1,000
Wow.
sow, so which is 1,000 sows will be producing like every week 400 people out of the farm, to sell. That's the kind of numbers you are looking at. So they are highly efficient in terms of reproductivity, feed conversion. But it all depends on the market, right? Like you need to have a good market system to promote the industry. Otherwise, the farmers will have no kind of benefits or motivation, right? Like that's the advantage in the West, that you have a very efficient market system developed, organized market, which is kind of lacking in India. It's probably, as I was discussing with you, like in Katupakam, like they still have a lot of problems selling in a regular, in an organized market. So that is the big issue, I think, which we have to address.
Yeah, when you mentioned about LRS, livestock, the resuscitation in India, I used to work for Tamils. I worked there for a little while. And like you say, marketing is the biggest problem, especially in Tamil Nadu, because of all of the religious taboos and everything. So as you said, I mean, it could have changed now. So have you seen any real changes? Because I'm sure that you have done a lot of research on all of these marketing and the growth of pig industry and everything. So your recent article about that as well exemplifies that. So do you have any personal experience, or do you have anything to share with us?
Yeah, like actually I wrote that article. In that article I wrote, there is a pink revolution happening in India. So that's not my statement. It was published in Hindu. Actually, it was pink revolution in Maharashtra, because Maharashtra Veterinary College collaborated with farmers cooperatives, and they are doing good work there. Also, Punjab University is doing a lot of work, and Tamil Nadu University, Chanuvas, is doing a lot of extension work in the pig sector. And I think I learned a lot about the Indian pork industry when one of my pork farmer friend from India, Avinash, who is from Hyderabad, who came to Canada. He spent his own money, came to Canada to our university. At that time, I was working in University of Saskatchewan. So he came to the University of Saskatchewan. We have a very nice small farm set up there for education and extension purposes, which is called the Prairie Swine Center. So he came there I think he was there for a month, and to understand the systems, production system. Actually, he had some collaboration with a Canadian company, a pork genetics company called Polar Genetics. And I was very amazed that he was willing to spend his money from his pocket.
Yeah.
And we were discussing, and he was very positive, and he said the taboos of the old taboos are breaking down, and people are very open now. So that's how I took some interest in how the pig industry in India is progressing. I did some research, and I really see an opportunity there.
Wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. So basically, change is really very challenging for a lot of people, and especially when you're moving from a traditional practice or from a very conventional or non-strategic practices to a vibrant enterprise. It's always, very challenging, and we need the correct science and technology in order to cope with the enterprise, isn't it? So, I mean, what is your advice, or what is your experience moving from unconventional or conventional non-strategic practices to a scientific approach of farming?
Yeah, when taking some scientific aspects from the West, we should improve our productivity. Obviously, that includes sometimes like crossbreeding. We have definitely the Western like Yorkshire, Duroc, and Landrace. These breeds are much more proficient, which can be used in India, and farmers are using it. So already the universities are helping them get, and also they themselves partnering with Canadian, Russian, and other companies, and they are bringing in crossbreed. That's one way of scientific development. Another is, I think the important part is maintaining a source for semen, right? Like insemination.
Yeah.
Now, when I see the sector here, even crossbred sows in India, most of the farms like 50 sows or 30 to 50 sows, but they are still not using not even artificial insemination.
Insemination.
Right? They are using boars, like every for certain number of female they keep a boar, which is very not efficient at all, right? Like per day a boar can serve only 3 or 4 sows, and so you need to keep more sows, you have to feed them and all kind of fish. Cut all that with artificial insemination. The first step is probably learning the technique, scientific methods of collecting, having a boar and collecting it and adding semen extensive. So that technique, that's the universities have to do extension work and teach the farmers so that they can keep one boar and serve, like one boar can ejaculate 20 to 60 billion of sperms. You need only 2 billion per service. So per sow. So which is, you can serve 25 to 30 sows in one boar. So that is that should be the beginning. And then probably when the market expands, you here in the Western countries, you have you don't even have to have a boar at all, right? Like you have some boar breeders from which you can buy the semen. There is a very nice organized distribution system of semen. So wherever you are in whichever rural parts of Canada, you can just buy the semen. And so that's one of the scientific parts which we have to improve on in India. And also in India, we are starting from the base. We should be mindful of not making the same mistakes of what people do in the West, that like giving very less space for animals. I see a lot of videos in India now. I think most of the farms now are giving around 2 meters square per pig, which if you just follow the West, then it'll kind of keep shrinking and may go to the crate system, which is predominant here, which is very bad for the animals. So I think science, there are a lot of inputs we have to take from science, but also be careful, because 10 or 20 years before, they said because the productivity didn't reduce, so you can push the animal to a crate. Right? But that kind of, I think it's a bad sign.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Dr. Roy, when we're talking about the feeding practices, as you know, like in India, the food waste, the human food waste, the swill, normally we call it as swill, is being used as a predominant food for pig industry or pigs by the farmers, which kind of just brings down the cost. Feeding cost for the industry. So is there a similar practice that is practiced in the Western world? How would you compare about feeding practices, Dr. Cyril?
Yeah, ideally, for the best performance, you want to give the proper grain diet, right? Pigs are monogastric animals like human beings, and they want a lot of grains and like barley, wheat, oat, that type of grains, and also some protein. Traditionally, people used to use fish powder and all that stuff, but that animal products are found to be causing a lot of biosecurity issues. So they have removed that and moved on to soybean. So obviously, pigs will do very well in the grain and soybean diet, but then there is an issue of sustainability. Right? Like even in a high grain producing country like Canada, we produce grains for the whole world. Like we have so much land to produce grains. But even here, we think it's kind of unsustainable to just feed the grain-based diet to pigs. So in Canada, I think they have introduced using the brewery waste.
Yeah.
To add it into the nutrition, but not reducing the nutrition level, but enough to make it sustainable. So similarly, in India, obviously, because as we discussed, the price is very low, so they can't afford to feed all this soybean and grain. So they are taken the route of the swill feeding, that is waste from restaurants and also supermarkets. That brings a kind of a big biosecurity risk. So that's what I was discussing in my article, that you have to come with some innovative ways to sterilize that. But nothing like in Indian scenario, that is only one part of the innovation, right? Like India have a big brewery industry too, which is basically a lot of products. So I think that part is the part where science has to really work. I think the nutritionists in India have to kind of pull and look for alternative solutions to support this industry. I think I would say nutrition and this semen artificial insemination techniques. These two will be the big areas where science has to come in.
Science has to come in.
To support the industry.
Yeah, I agree. If I can supplement that, when I was in LRS, the doctors who worked in the pig industry or the pig area, they used to get the chocolate factory waste, pure sugar. So they used to come and just mix it with the concentrate feeding they used to feed the pigs. So as you say, this could be used as a 50-50 in a combination with the grains. The food waste can be used to, a combination of the grains. Of course, taking into consideration they have to be sterilized properly before they have to be fed to the pigs. Yeah. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, interesting, right? Like people are already looking into it, which is a positive aspect, right? So I think I think the industry will really benefit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So, like when you actually just move from a conventional or a scavenging type of, industry to a very organized scientific industry, I have heard a lot about precision feeding and things like that. So, how would you, advise the enterprise or farmers to move from whatever the feeding practices they are having to a precision feeding? And what is precision feeding to start with?
So in most of the farms in North America, so I won't say it's 100% yet here, but all the well-established farms, maybe they will have at least a electronic sow feeding system, which is where a animal will go in to a small kind of a cage, kind of when the animal is hungry, it will go inside. It will learn by itself, because when there is always feed there. So to go into this small enclosure and eat. But when the animal goes in, it is recorded, okay, so-and-so animal came in and it ate so much feed. And you can, to the next level, you can also adjust the feeding. So if this animal comes, you can adjust the feeder. Okay, you should give only this much animal. That's a kind of a slowly moving to a precision, like individual attention to animal, right? So you are able to manipulate and manage the feeding of each animal. And also it gives you the option of maybe you can connect it to the computer and see, so how many animals ate so much and so animal didn't eat at all today. So that gives us some amount of precision to improve health and welfare. So that's a kind of a mode now in most of the advanced farms are here in. But the next level probably is like when you talk about really precision farming, precision feeding. So one of the main issues with the precision feeding is, especially in pigs, is how to identify the animal, right? Like you can use tags, which is normally used now, but tags with electronic something in it, which can be recorded. But tags, every pig loses its tag every 3 weeks. So that can be expensive. That will increase the cost of production. And also, like, nobody here want anybody to inject anything into the animal, which because it will be used for consumption. So you can't introduce anything foreign body inside the pig. So that's another issue. So I think one of the biggest challenge in precision feeding is how to identify the animal. So many people are working on face recognition, like similar to people. So I think it's still in the nascent stage. How can we relate to this to India? I think it's a long way to go there because it needs a lot of investment, right? Like the sector has to be very organized to put in all millions of rupees or dollars into it to do all this systems, which is kind of happening which can happen very quickly because in chicken and even in dairy sector they are improving very fast. So it's always good to keep a watch on. I see the opportunities. We are starting in a clean slate, so we can do it in a nice way if there is some there is some support and from the
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Clean slate sounds really very doable. Yeah. So we've seen or we have heard from you about the precision feeding and everything. So moving on, probably it's good to talk about the housing as well. So I mean, like, what are the different types of housing Canada has probably, and how could India cope with the housing practices or strategies and things like that? Please share your knowledge and experience about that.
Yeah, I think majority, probably 75% of animals here is indoor in North America, and also very restrictive housing. That is a sow, like a gilt, for the first probably till 190 days they'll be in group, and then at 190 days when she's kind of sexually mature, they come to the gestation crate, which is kind of again a very restricted space, which will be around probably 1.5 meters by less than a meter crate. So they will come to the crate, the gestation crate, and there which will be serviced, and then when she's pregnant and reaches almost 3 or 4 days before parturition, she'll move on to the farrowing crate, where there are protection for the piglets too. So the pig will be there in the farrowing crate for maybe 21 days, and then after 21 days, the piglets will be weaned, and then the sow moves back to the breeding area. Something like a gestation crate, and go back the cycle again and again. So that's the way the 75% of farms work in North America, basically. But there are some differences. There are a lot of new programs coming in. People are very aware that this system is very harsh on animals. So there are a lot of in North America. If we talk about, we have the GAP, that is the Global Animal Partnership Audit System, which is to improve the animal welfare of farms. Many farms are signing up for that, which will keep kind of more of keep the animals in groups and giving at least 2 meter squares, which is very interesting. That many of the farms in India now are building like not the traditional cottage, but new farms. They are kind of making kind of cement pens with some animals on it. Hopefully, they'll continue to give the proper space allowance for the pigs there from the beginning. But also in India, maybe one thing I see, one of the improvements they can make is when you make the whole pens in cement, it's very hard to move the pigs and all that when you grow in size. Probably in what we can learn from here is, here we use plastic, like thick, very hard plastic as dividers, right, between pens.
Right.
It's very easy to manipulate. If you want to remove animals from a pen, you can just remove the plastic, right? So it's, I think it's very easy on handling, and like that's another area probably we should talk about, like animal handling, which is very, very poor even in developed countries like Canada and North America. Which hopefully in India, that's again which is the area which we can which people should start focusing on, so that that will reduce the labor cost, that will increase productivity also. It's not that obsolete idea. Improving how you deal with animals can bring you a lot of returns too.
Yeah. That's a very good advice. Yeah, and so can the mated pigs or a served sow can be kept with the other, non-pregnant or non-mated sows? Will it bring any problems? Like once they are mated, I know like the boars and the sows are kept separate, but still after the servicing and everything, sometimes I've seen people keeping both the non-mated or the non-pregnant ones with the pregnant ones. What's the best advice for keeping the sows together, doctor?
I don't think it's a good idea because the nutritional needs of the are very different, right? For a farming, for a pregnant sow, she have to get the maintenance diet and also the additional for the piglet growth diet, right? Intra train.
Absolutely.
Whereas the dry sows, you want to keep them kind of very fit and lean so that you don't get any. If they are very fat, probably you'll have reproductive issues.
Reproductive problems, yeah.
Yes. So I think it's not a good idea in terms of scientifically speaking. Normally in North America, they are never kept together at all. But I'm not sure about how it's done. Probably because they have less pens, they might be still using.
Probably,
yes. But I don't think it's a good idea, though.
Yeah. So the advice would be to keep the pregnant ones separate and the dry ones separate. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for that. And as you know, like a lot of Indian farmers, they have the indigenous pig breeds, right? However, I mean, like I know, like the crossbreeding is getting really gaining momentum in India. Even though we gain momentum, it's really hard to convince people that crossbreeding or introducing, exotic breeds into India is a kind of a challenge. So, would you advise or would you say like crossbreeding is the best practice in India for pigs?
I support crossbreeding, and I was reading some documents from the ICR has a research institute, I think in Assam, Guwahati. So I was reading their documents, and there's a lot of emphasis on developing indigenous breeds and also on crossbreeds. So I think we have to learn from the previous mistakes of. I remember when I was young, like we used to have Holstein Friesian cows, but they used to suffer a lot during summer. When the production goes down. And if you keep a Yorkshire or landrace pig in a Delhi area where temperature reaches 45 degrees centigrade,
I know.
Obviously, it doesn't make any scientific sense, or you'll run into problems. There are other ways of coping with it. You might have to give sprinklers, and so you have to adjust to the environment, right? You can't just blindly follow one system and get away with it. So that will put a lot of pressure on animal health issues, animal welfare issues. So I think as long as we are mindful of that factors, there is no harm in trying out crossbreeding.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, talking about crossbreeding and all that, we are well aware that, synchronized mating is very, very common in cattle. And I know like a lot of the Indian farmers, a lot of the Indian farms, organized farms, they do it all the time for cattle. So is there a possibility that we can, follow the same synchronized mating in pigs as well?
Yes, we can do it. There's some farms in North America doing it, not very common here too, because it increases the production you need for to have a synchronized breeding. FSH, follicle stimulation hormone you have to give, then you have to give the LH, luteinizing hormone before breeding, right? So if you have to prime the reproductive tract with all these hormones so that all animals are bred on the same
coming to heat,
yeah. So this will kind of increase the cost of production, right? But there's a lot of research going on, and you don't even have to inject it. There are gels which have come up here. You can just apply this gel in the vagina, especially these two hormones, FSH and LH, and then you can inseminate on the day of
A day.
On the day. You can coordinate many animals on that day. And again, it comes to the point, in India, we still don't have a proper semen distribution system, right? Like if you have 50 sows and if you make all 50 sows come to heat on the same day, do you have the semen for that day?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's very, very true. Yeah, that's true.
So you have to kind of look into all these aspects before jumping into it. I think in Indian situations, but it's definitely it makes easier, right? Like in the Western continent, in Canada or North America, it can reduce the labor cost. So
definitely, yes,
you bring most of the sows in one day, so you come and breed, and probably if I'm managing 1,000 sows on my own, one person deal, probably I have to use it.
True. Yeah. So moving on from this topic to diseases in pigs. I mean, every country has feared, or every country is still fearing about the African swine fever. So I'm very well aware of the 2018 disaster because of that ASF. So how do you think India coped with that, or did India report any outbreak at all? How do you explain that?
I think last year there's some outbreaks in the eastern part of India where the traditional cottage farming system, where the scavenging type of feeding is done. So, and probably there are a lot of outbreaks in the border areas, China and all that stuff. So probably there was some migration of the infection from there into eastern Canada. But I have not heard of big any outbreak
disasters
interior India, like the southern India, Punjab area, where Punjab and Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh, where the new young farmers are coming up, or in Maharashtra. I think one of the reason probably is most of these new farmers are bringing animals from veterinary universities or in tie-ups from abroad. So we have a good quarantine system in India to bring animals in. So probably that's the reason why they are protected till now. So so it also gives us the hope, right? Like if you follow the proper systems, then you don't get the infection. So that's the lesson we learned. And obviously the traditional system of allowing pigs to scavenge. I think that system is not sustainable, and I don't think in India we are developing quite fast, and I don't think public will kind of accept that system for long. I think that will change. Definitely change.
And we read about the article that you wrote in PraniMitran about biosecurity, and that was really a very incredible. I should say, it's like a wake-up call for all of the pig industry people. I think that was really a brilliant article. And moving forward, I would like to ask if there are any collaborations that India has with other countries for pig industry, or are you involved in any of the collaborations? Are you aware of that, or do you have any personal experience with such collaborations, Doctor?
Yeah, I think the Avinash story I shared, that is my first kind of bumping up into the collaboration between Canada and India, which then I read upon a lot. And in fact, there's a lot of work they have done. The Polar Genetics have supported crossbred, given high quality animals to Indian farmers. And they are doing extremely well. A lot of farmers in Punjab, Rajasthan, and now they have collaborated with many farmers in South India. So I think this is a big success story. So the collaborations are starting to work. This is one example of private sector. It's a Canadian private sector company collaborating with Indian farmers. Going one step further, the universities, like I worked in the University of Saskatchewan for 3 years. They were always open for people to come and learn. They had a small farm, 300 sow farm, just to do extension activities. People all around the world come in. So Avinash also came there, and they are going to continue this program. So I would suggest if anybody want to come and learn, they should come to Prairie Swine Center of University of Saskatchewan. they should contact them, and I'm sure they'll get a good response. Some United States companies and European companies are also showing interest in India and supporting even Russia.
That's really great. And so we have almost come to the end of the session now. So what would be the take-home message that you would like to give to our younger generation veterinarians, our audience, and other pig industry people, those who are watching our show now?
Well, as I said, pig industry is a budding industry in India. So I think veterinarians should take active interest in growing the sector. One of the, there are, I think, 3 aspects to our veterinary oath, which most of our veterinarians follow diligently. One is helping animals, another is in improvement of public health, and the third is kind of advocate for science. I have phenomenal respect for veterinarians. So most of us do all these 3. But I think the thing to watch out for, I think my request will be to take the sides of little bit animals more, be an advocate for the animal more as veterinarians, so that science is not used in a bad way to treat animals. So that is the one aspect to watch out for, I would say, for the young veterinarians who are coming up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cyril, for coming to our show and sharing your knowledge and your experiences with all of our viewers and the audience also watching us on the show now. It was really incredible and it was very, very beneficial. And thank you very much and all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Vathsala. Nice talking to you. Thank you, PraniMitran, for giving me an opportunity to share this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Thank you. So we have come to the end of this session, viewers, but it's not over yet. We will be having sessions about a lot of farming practices and other sections as well. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was really beneficial and was for all of you. So until next time, it is Dr. Vathsala signing off for now. Thank you very much.